All right, welcome, my friends, to episode 696 of Extreme Health Radio. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate you guys being here. And today, we're going to talk about light. And this is something that, has become a lifestyle for me. And it's become something where it's just part of who I am and how we mitigate our environment to optimize light. But it's not something I really talk about probably enough. Inside our academy, I do. But on the radio show, it's really great to have as many guests as possible talking about how light affects our mitochondria and our energy levels and ATP production and all that good stuff. So we're going to have Dayne Barkley. Going to introduce him in just a second. I heard about him through my friend Matt Blackburn on his radio show, Mito Life Radio, which is a really great show. You should definitely tune into that. Listen to that every week. And he's doing some great work. He's down in Australia, so I'm going to talk to him. And I think that it's like 3 or 4 in the morning right now. So we're going to find out how he's going to biohack his own sleep tonight. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. I'm going to put links to his website along with anything else that we talk about, sponsors, and anything we discuss on extremehealthradio.com/696. And that's all you got to remember, 696 for today's show. So we'll put links to his website and you can grab those Barkley glasses and all that good stuff. Next week we have John Schott. We're going to talk about rewilding Big C, Little V. So that'll be interesting. The Friday after that, we're going to have Nicholas Pinot on along with our friend Brian Hoyer and talking about 5G and EMF mitigation strategies. Following that Friday, Morley Robbins, and we're going to talk about the latest from the copper iron research world. So that's going to be really, really great. So is my audio up enough? I don't know if it's up enough. But anyway, we're going to bring Dayne on right now. But first, let me tell you, he's a holistic health coach and the creator of the Barkley's sunglasses brand, not sunglasses, but glasses brand. And he's passionate about optimizing sleep. And he actually came up with an interchangeable clip-on concept with blue blocking glasses. So if you wear blue blockers, which I highly recommend, and I assume you do, you'll know that at different times of the day, you're going to want to block out different frequencies of light. And so it's really important to make sure that you are blocking out the right frequencies at the right time. So he's helping people in Australia. And Dayne, are you there? Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Justin, what a great lineup you have for the next few weeks. It's awesome.
Oh, I know. Get a chance to talk to some cool people. I'm really, really blessed about that. There's so many cool people doing different things with regards to health. It's funny. One of those things I tell people, it's like everyone who comes on believes, whether they're a chiropractor or work with minerals or whatever, everyone has a piece of the pie, but everyone thinks their piece of the pie is the only piece of the pie,
Yeah, I can see that.
That's funny. So you're telling me before the show that you're in Australia right now, so it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's 4:12 a.m. right now, and it's pitch black. So
Wow.
I'm actually in the room is pitch black. I've got my blue blockers on, obviously, and I've got my brightness down low. I've got Iris installed in the computer, so I'm doing everything I can to make sure my body doesn't know that's fully awake just yet. So
yeah. So man, that's crazy. So it's 4 o'clock a.m. So when will the sun rise where you're located in South Australia?
I would say around 6, I think at this stage of the year, around about 6:30, maybe a little bit before. It sort of varies because we're moving into sort of autumn, or we're in autumn now, but we're moving into the darker months. So yeah, around about 6:30ish, I think we're looking at.
That's interesting. So right now there's no sun, there's no light at all. So you're in like a pitch black. Is that the best thing to do? I would imagine, right? The sun's down. You don't want any light, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think the sort of the best rule to sort of follow is like the light and dark cycles of the sun, but also knowing that like if it's dark outside, then it should be dark inside as well. That's sort of the best mentality. So when I wake up, I use my head torch with a red light function on just to navigate through the house. And then I have my sort of blue blockers on if I'm in front of a screen of any sort. And so that's, for me, it's just makes it so much easier to have this circadian alignment for my body and my sleep as well, just not have it too disrupted as much as possible.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess it would depend on what your goals are, right? Because I was just going to ask you, because with your glasses, you have different lenses for different times of the day, because there's times when a little blue light from technology isn't that bad. So like, you're telling me before the show that after this, you're going to try to take a nap. So if you're going to try to take a nap, you'd want to block all light with your darker lenses right now, right?
Mm. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think it's exactly right. If you're working shift works, that would be definitely a different approach to what you want to block. So you don't want to be blocking so much. If you
Hmm.
want to have, I guess, if you are working a lot earlier or later, you might want to have to shift those circadian alignments for your body. So even though that's not ultimately long term sustainable, it's for a period of time. You might have to sort of do that. So my goals is always to follow the light dark cycles of the sun. So therefore, I'm always trying my best when it's dark from sunset, even before sunrise, around that period as well, to have just as dark as room as possible, much as I can. But in this day and age, it is very difficult when you've got screens and you've got businesses as well. So do the best we can, really, and not getting too sort of obsessed with it too.
Too crazy about it. Yeah, so like
Yeah,
if I were in your situation right now, I'd be doing the same thing. But if I was going to avoid taking a nap when I got up, and I was gonna, it's 4 in the morning, and I was just gonna start my day, would it be wise to use the more yellow lens right now so you can be a little bit more awake? Do you think?
correct. Yeah, so the yellow lens, which we call the day lens, for use for ideally daytime in front of computers, blocks all the violet light as well. So that ideally will allow some blue in through as well. So that's why we recommend as a day lens, because it does allow some blue through to come through the lens as well. So you're still blocking violet, which is still ideal to block it for the daytime. But if you are exactly, that was my intention. It was to sort of go on and after this and just go and continue my day and not have a nap, then that would be an ideal situation as well to have just a day lens on. But I'm wearing the dusk lens now, which blocks out all the blue as well, and 100% the blue light and the violet light. And so that's what I'm wearing right now. I think it's to help my sort of alignment at least until sunrise, and then I'll see how I'll go from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that people like you're doing this for one day, and we appreciate that so much to be on the show. But it's crazy that people will do this like every day for shift work, isn't it? Like it's insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm like, it's I'm in a state where I understand how important it is to have such like a quality sleep consistently as well, and that's why we're sort of really focusing. I've been focused in that area for years, and so for me, it's like one is not going to have an impact, and the fact that I can actually connect with you and share with the audience as well is more impactful for me than to have a sort of one night of interrupted sleep, for instance. But knowing I can easily catch up on that through a nap and have an early night tonight as well. So it is for me. I have done minimal shift work, and I can understand the impact that has on the body and how fast that burns jing and your life force. And it's just not. I know some people are in that state where they might not be able to get out of that for now, but it's. I think the best thing that people can do is do their best to transition away from that as best as possible. Based on the lifestyle and as well. And I think it's just, or even put in a lot of mitigation techniques like blue blockers and just certain things around your health that can really boost that. Because I've noticed when I was working those either late nights or early mornings or even those shift works, my immune system was tanking, and it was not a good space to be in for long. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because I know you're familiar with Dr. Cruz, and anyone
Mm,
who's really in the alternative health space probably is familiar with Dr. Jack Cruz. And that's one of the things that he always talks about is just how important it is, your circadian rhythms, but also the sleep wake cycles and what that does to your hormones. And like, he always says, like, he has such a funny way of talking because he's so just dogmatic, like, he's been on the show a couple times, and he's
mm,
so into what he's saying, and sometimes he comes across pretty um, brash, but like it is true though. I agree with him, like what he says about shift work. Like I don't think there's much compromise. Like I think that I agree with him. Like you just can't do that kind of work. But I mean, there's ways
mm.
to mitigate for sure. But geez, like I think it's so damaging.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Jack. I know Jackie's can definitely have quite a polarizing sort of view on things. But I mean, I've learned so much from him as well, and sparked that interest in me and that sort of curiosity of this world. I'm not as sort of hard and fast with being like this has to be the way, or if you're living in this area, you have to move out to go closer to the equator. And I'm not
Mm.
as extreme as that, I guess. But in sense of understanding people and where they're at, especially nowadays, that like you do the best you can really, and just keep evolving. And everyone's always at different levels of of knowledge and development of their health and the sort of understanding. So I'm like being sort of compassionate about where people are, but then sort of guiding them and moving them towards a more sort of healthy, long-term, sustainable living sort of lifestyle, really.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. Like for people that do work shift work or night work, like a lot of nurses or people that are on call like that, what would you suggest? Like aside from changing your schedule, like what are your top tips, do you think, for night shift workers?
Yeah, nurses are actually they're quite. I've heard a lot of great positive feedback from our glasses that nurses are sort of starting to really benefit from them and starting to. I think ideally they should all be wearing blue blockers, whether they're mine or someone else's, just to protect their eyes and to be able to use that tool in a way that sort of benefits them. So if you're working a night shift for, say, a nurse, I wouldn't recommend wearing the dusk or delta lens. That will just essentially knock you out and find it very hard to function during those hours. But at least having the day clip on will have some sort of will allow some sort of your ability to not fully have some alertness, but then still be able to maybe when you need to go to sleep, maybe an hour or two before you go to sleep, so they can clip on the dusk lens as well. So there's definitely ways around that, and the lighting in hospitals is again horrendous. So it's like so important to protect your eyes in those environments. And I think as well, from my understanding, and in Australia here, and I'd imagine be similar in the US, the food that they have available or they choose to eat at those hours as well is always quite damaging. It's always very insulin spiking kind of foods and junk
Oh,
foods,
right.
so to speak. And so
Yeah.
that has an impact as well. So I think the dietary aspect is really important. And I find that if you're in those working those night shifts as well, you are drawn to more sugar foods, more like quick fix hits of sugar to sort of give you a boost of energy. So I think a dietary aspect of things as well as sort of the light, I think can have a really big impact, as well as environment. But that's, again, you can't really control your environment if you work in a hospital. You can just do the
Mm-hmm.
best you can. So whether that's sort of like some EMF protection as well, which would be, it gets another added bonus to that on top of that, some personal wear, whether it's a blue shield or something else. So there's a lot that can be done. I think it's more so just the awareness. And when more of these nurses are getting, say, the glasses and had one nurse that actually gave me feedback that it's like the glasses like pretty much saved her life, which is really
Wow.
great feedback to get. Because the sleep I can see like how bad sleep can really have that impact on your psychology, your biology, everything. It just comes down to that, and it can make you just having really bad sleep and having, say, blue blockers as a really useful tool. It's not the only thing, but at least it's a really easily implementable tool that can have that sort of impact. And again, if you're working around screens, I recommend highly your iris to be installed, even the brightness to be turned down in rooms or even on like computer monitors. And so these are all just really, I guess, important factors that I feel like we should be moving as a society towards more
Mm-hmm.
ambient lighting. And regardless, I know some people that these is like, it's not possible to be able to move out a night shift, but there's things they can put in place like the ambience of lighting and even turn the brightness down and the blue blockers. And I think all of them are really important factors to sort of put into place. I don't think people really grasp the understanding of that enough, of how sort of imperative that is really to sort of maintain your quality of life and just quality of health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's amazing. I can't imagine being in a hospital with, those fluorescent lightings at 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Would you recommend? I would recommend. I'm sure you would too. Like covering your skin during that time as well, right?
Yeah, that would be ideal. Yeah, obviously, as Jack would would definitely recommend, and especially your thyroid and making sure that you are covered up as much as possible. I guess if people aren't familiar with as well, there's like the photoreceptors that are on the skin. So ideally, our eyes are the most sensitive aspect of our bodies in terms of light, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
sort of the light receptors that are coming through the eyes. So that's probably the first place to start. And then the next step would be definitely to have your skin is covered as much as possible, especially in those really harsh fluorescent, compact fluorescent bulbs that they have in those tubes, at least in those hospitals and those environments. Even supermarkets, they're just incredibly harsh lighting. It's really, really high on the blue spectrum, very unnatural, very alien to our bodies. And so in those environments, absolutely, I think it's ideal to, I mean, right now I'm wearing a turtleneck. So that is, it's very Jack Cruz approved, that's for sure. So in front of screens, I'm completely covered up apart from my face, which would be an ideal situation. But then again, I think it's a great place to start with your eyes because that's really key. And then you can work towards that because, again, you might be in an environment that doesn't really allow for that to be possible to cover your skin.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up about a turtleneck, because essentially what that's doing, I think, is protecting your thyroid and the high frequency blue light that affects your thyroid gland, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess it does also depend on what environment you're in. So I have had this question a bit actually about how sort of the wraparound glasses and the sort of peripheral lighting leakage that comes from, say, if you weren't wearing them. And so my personal sort of approach to that has been like, well, it's all based on your environment. So if you're in an environment that you've been blasted from every angle of some sort of very harsh blue light spectrum lighting that's very unnatural, then, and it's coming from every direction, then maybe, yeah, you benefit from a wraparound pair of glasses. But then you go to the point of wearing, you feel comfortable wearing them in public or not, which is the gap we're starting to bridge here. And with our glasses, is that the approach of having a pair that people feel comfortable wearing in public, because we know blue blockers can be very sort of unappealing
To
to
say the
wear out in
least, right?
public, and to say the least. Yeah, that was my big issue. Really, that's sort of why I came about creating the glasses. Was quite a big one. Was it almost scratched my own back in the sense that I wanted to wear a pair that I felt really comfortable in public wearing. It was already uncomfortable enough wearing it with an orange lens, for instance.
Right.
And I was wearing, I think, the Swannies back in the day, and um,
Uh-huh.
I got used to wearing them. And because I was, I guess, quite an extreme health person, so I still to this day, my partner and I out in the city, we don't see any other person wearing blue blockers. And so one day I hope that people start to really click onto these and see that more common around the world or even around the cities as well. But because the city is a terrible place for lighting as well,
Oh my
the
gosh.
LEDs and the fluorescence. And so for us, and even driving in the car at night as well, so we, like when the sun sets, no matter where we are in the world, we'll be wearing our blue blockers. But I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable, and we try to make ours as sort of as modern and contemporary and timeless as possible, so people would feel comfortable doing that. And having the interchangeability of the lenses as well can cater to your needs. So some people might not be comfortable wearing, say, an orange lens out in public, but the day clip has quite a very subtle yellow tint to it. So it's a great way to transition across. So it allows people to transition based on their comfortability of how they feel want to be in public, as well as other things as well. But fortunately, tinted lenses are coming back in fashion. So hopefully that moves the needle forward for people to wear them
Yeah,
out in public.
totally. We can thank Bono and Elton John for that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of the celebrities these days. I think Ariana Grande is wearing some red lenses in her last music video. So
Oh, no
I
way.
think
That's cool.
I don't think they're blue blockers, but it's just great to get that awareness of people. Like it's probably more associated with that more alternative space of people wearing probably a bit like
Hmm.
to wear colored lenses. But I think, yeah, once people understand the health benefits, they will start to, I think, click on.
Yeah, what's fascinating is what you're talking about the city, and like just for here in Southern California right now, it's April coming into May, and so summer is upon us. And so the other day I was walking down the beach, and it's just so fascinating because you still see people here in California wearing masks. And what's crazy is like I must have walked for an hour and a half along the beach, just checking out the surf and all that. And I didn't see one person on the beach that didn't have one of these three things. And I know if you were walking,
Mm,
if you were walking with me, we would have been talking about this. But it was
mm,
rubber soled shoes, a mask, sunglasses, or full cover up of their entire body. And I was just thinking, wow. So the shoes are disconnecting you from the magnetic field of the Earth and the benefits there. The sunglasses are screwing up your biology and your circadian rhythms. I think Dr. Cruz says they're circadian
mm.
mismatches or something. And then the clothing is covering up your photoreceptors in your skin that damages your mitochondria. And then the mask is screwing up your lungs. And it's like, like I don't know what's going on with people. It's crazy,
It's a perfect concoction for disease, that's for sure. It's
right?
I'm exactly the same. We see that quite regularly here in Australia as well. As I think it's quite a sort of universal thing, and definitely when I go to the beach or when we do, and we do see people that are walking either on shoes or even wearing sunglasses or anything as a protection. I can't comprehend that well because I'm so far removed from it now, and I can understand and sympathize with people not having an understanding, and it's just probably quite common, and therefore that's just what they know. But I feel like that's just all that does is really encourage me to get out there more and be like, okay, this information is not as sort of mainstream yet. And I feel like there's nice subtle ways to sort of transition people into that world as well. But for me, it's like it's a massive disconnect from nature. And the simplest thing is for people to sort of comprehend is that the closer to nature you live, the better and longer your health will sustain and be free of disease as well. So the light dark cycles, respecting the sun. There's also the other spectrum of that as well, which I personally believe, which would be so extreme that you go out and bake yourself in the sun for like hours and hours on end. And just I feel like that can also cause a lot of damage as well. Especially in Australia, we have a very different, our sun is very different down here, down under, and if you're familiar but with the ozone layer. So we have a very different space. I know Jack Cruz talks a lot about the sort of, our water is very different down here as well. So there's so many different aspects of that as well. Like we have our deuterium is completely different than say anywhere else in the world in our water supply, and for instance. But again, it's like there's a balance of understanding that. Like for us here in the mountains, when the sun comes out, I'm out there exposed and grounded as much as possible with the sun. Doesn't mean I'm out there for hours and hours on end, but I'm out there to soak up some vitamin D to get that circadian alignment, touch my skin and my eyes, and it's such a beneficial practice for your neurotransmitters, for your dopamine, your serotonin. It just feels good. And you feel connected, grounded. There's so many sort of beneficial aspects on so many levels, on the spiritual level, on a biological level, on a mental level. And so I think I was almost introducing people to that regularly to be able to really connect and realize how that sort of in connection to their body to be like how they actually feel, because I think there is a disconnect there with not knowing how their body feels and being so disconnected from that of feeling good and feeling sort of well and healthy. And so yeah, I'm still sort of, I still get in shock sometimes when I see those people out there, and I'm like, if you could just remove a few of those things, you would feel a lot better that night for sleep. And even just at the moment, you would feel so much better. Just be able to grab those electrons from the ground. And yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing too, like how many people in the alternative natural health space don't know about lighting at all. And it's fascinating. I'm constantly telling our academy members, the people that are members of there, just how important it is to make sure that your lighting environment is adequate and optimized and stuff like that. And, for me, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's just become a way of life for me. So I don't really think about it too much anymore, but it's become a thing where as soon as the sun goes down and when I'm inside, I'm wearing glasses. And when the sun goes down, I'm wearing glasses all the way up until I go to bed. And I've got red lights in the house and they're all dimmed and I've got iris. But most people have no idea about circadian rhythms, light frequencies. And so, I mean, it goes to show that I guess you and I have a lot of work to do in terms of education and making sure more people realize this stuff,
Yeah, I agree. It is really, it's not in the mainstream yet. It definitely hasn't breached there. And at times it can get quite sort of hard for me because I guess the curse of knowledge is that like for me being in this world for quite a while now and practicing what I preach and putting into experience and all that as well, and sharing as much as I can is like, it's still not, I think people don't really appreciate the impact and value that really does lighting. And it's like getting people to be able to actually experience that and experience what it's like to actually be in darkness once the sun sets and have that feeling of the rush of melatonin that comes in, the sleepiness, and having a really good quality night's sleep. It's like those experiences when we like get people to sort of feel and experience for themselves. And the only way that people can transition that is through felt experience. So as much as I can explain about this and that and technical aspect of lighting and all that as well, the most important part of it for me is that's why my fiance and I are moving into the coaching aspect to be able to sort of help and guide people to that place. Because once they experience and feel that for themselves, in their reality, I feel like that's the transition where people start to move towards, and they'll be able to share that with others, and that sort of domino effect that comes from that as well. But and for me, it's like it's such a easily implementable health, lifestyle, environment sort of shift that can have such a profound impact on your health. And I feel like it's not something you have to just, again, you said then too, you have these things in place and that's it. You don't have to keep, you can, I mean, things will upgrade in with technology or with life as well. And so certain aspects will become easier again, but there's something so simple about just following darkness at night and getting light during the day from the sun, and that's just keeping things simplicity like that. It's just so much easier to do and have that impact on your sleep, on your health, and just starts to become your new sort of your new normal in a sense of like what is healthy and how you feel. And it's just, yeah, for me it's like I can get frustrated at times being like, this is such an easy thing to implement if people
Yeah.
were just to try it, really experience for themselves.
I know it's so profound. People have no idea just how much of an impact it can have on your health. But once you start adopting some of these principles and you start really putting into practice, these things are so simple and it makes so much sense. We're going to take a little break right now, I think. But when we come back, we have a listener question who wants to know about prescription lenses as options for your glasses. And then I want to ask you too about, when we come back from the break, about sleep, like, trouble falling asleep or setting your circadian rhythm, waking up in the middle of the night, stuff like that. And we'll kind of hack into sleep because I know you have a course coming up. So we're going to take a little break right now. This is extremehealthradio.com/696. And if you guys want to link on over to Dayne's website, it is barkleyeyewear.com. I'd recommend following him on Instagram too for some cool tips and stay up to date with his products and stuff like that he's got going on. So make sure to check those out. Definitely make sure to check out his glasses too, because what he's offering is different than anybody else. And it's going to save you a ton of money too. So it allows you to basically pop in some different frames at different times of the day based on your lighting where you're located. So it's actually really, really cool thing that he's got going on. All right, so we're going to take a little break right now, and I want to run this little spot for one of my favorite products, pine pollen. Check it out.
The dense, whole food nutrition of pine pollen includes a suite of vitamins, minerals, plant sterols, and a complete essential amino acid profile to balance hormones and inflammation, boost recovery, and restore vitality. Surthrival pine pollen is available in powder, capsule, and liquid extracts. For a gentle dose and a wide range of nutritional benefits, try the powder. For potent, targeted endocrine support, try our concentrated extractions. Our wild harvested pine pollen is prepared at a low temperature and airflow pulverized to increase digestibility. It's a bioactive and bioavailable ally for men and women, nature's ageless gift for the modern world.
Yeah, guys, Surthrival has got some amazing, amazing products, and I love taking all of these. I love combining their elk velvet antler with the pine pollen for optimal hormonal support. Just great. I think pine pollen is the only substance in nature that actually has testosterone in it. So this is great for both men and women. Daniel was saying the other day that the majority of the people that purchase the pine pollen and the elk velvet for their hormones are women. And a lot of people think that testosterone is bad for women, but that's not the case. Typically, we're estrogen dominant in our culture. And so actually, when we come back from the break, we can talk about light and how that affects your hormones too. Most people don't realize like light has a tremendous impact on your hormones. But if you're looking for some great products, go over to Surthrival, go through our link if you would. That would help support the show and the work that we do. If you're watching on video, wherever you're watching, I'll put a link to this particular product at extremehealthradio.com/696, or in the video description below. You should be able to see it as well. And something else I wanted to tell you guys about too, we're doing right now a liver cleanse inside our Extreme Health Academy. So we're doing that as a group, and we do this 4 times a year. So we're doing a heavy metal cleanse, parasite cleanse, liver cleanse, and a colon cleanse, different times of the year as a group together. And right now, one of the things that I'm doing for this liver cleanse, I don't really like cleansing in as much as I like doing things that are supportive, to the liver. There's a lot of really harsh things that you can do for your liver, like those liver gallbladder flushes and all that kind of stuff, which all require energy, right? But most people don't have the ability to create ATP in their mitochondria, so they don't have the energy to do these cleanses, which is kind of odd. But what I like to do is I'm doing some castor oil packs every night. And if you go to our store, biochargeme.com, and look under digestion, you'll see the castor oil pack. And this is from, oh gosh, the Queen of the Thrones is what her name is. Dr. Marisol Tejero is her name, and she's a naturopathic doctor. And we talked all about castor oil packs and what it does and how it's amazing for liver cleansing, and it helps with gut inflammation. It relaxes the intestinal lining. It improves the resilience of the lining of your intestines, as well as biofilm, breaks down biofilms and improves the microbiome. Castor oil has been used for centuries, and what's cool about her pack is that it's not messy, and it takes you about 3 minutes, 2 minutes, if that. You just put the oil that's organic, obviously in glass, because that's really important, on the pack, and you can sleep with it all night long. So instead of doing a castor oil pack for 30 minutes, at the end of the night, you can sleep with this on, and it's just a really great way to regulate your hormones, reduce inflammation, improve liver function. And liver also is one of the primary places where we store vitamin D, along with our fat cells. And so if you guys are thinking about, if you're in the northern hemisphere, thinking about flu season coming up and big C, little v, and all the hysteria that's going to be going on around that, you can store vitamin D in your liver if you improve the function of your liver. So castor oil packs is something that I recommend all of us do. And this one is so easy. 2 minutes, end of night, boom. Put it on, go to sleep, and you get benefits for 8 hours. So this is a really, really great way to improve your liver function. It has over 500 functions. And there's a code for it too. EHR10 gets you 10% off. So I really recommend doing this. Do it for 30 days, and I'm telling you, you're going to feel a difference in so many different aspects of your life. So check that out. I'll put links down below for that, or at extremehealthradio.com/696. And let me bring Dayne back on the show, and we can talk about hormones and light. But first, I want to get to this listener question where this person asks about prescription lenses. Let's turn him back on. All right, Dayne. Did you get that question about prescriptions? Do you offer prescriptions or plan to offer prescriptions on your glasses?
Yeah, it's one of the most, I guess it's one of the most common questions that we get is prescription lenses. I know a lot of bigger blue blocking companies out there do offer that, and as sort of quite a new startup, we'll we simplified things initially with 2 frames and non-prescription, but with our new supplier, prescriptions is coming very soon, and as well as readers as well. So magnification from reading glasses and prescriptions will be done. So that will be coming this year for sure. And so we look forward to that. Hopefully that answers that question for us.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. And so, I know some places offer like those fit over lenses, but those things seem really bulky to me and kind of heavy. And I don't know, they don't seem like they'd be that comfortable.
Yeah. A lot of those ones I think it can be quite a process as well. And I guess there's a lot of people that have their own prescription glasses and have the fit around ones that go on top of their glasses, which is an option. Our recommendation right now that we have for people that do need prescriptions is that because our frames are cellulose acetate, they can be molded. And so therefore you can have whatever, you go to your local optometrist and get your prescription lenses added into our frames, because then we have the frames which are fitted with the clip-on lenses. So that's our sort of personal recommendation that we say right now for people in the interim until we start to offer prescription, which is quite shortly down the track this year. And so that's our sort of, and that works. A lot of customers have done that successfully and really benefited from that, because the idea is mainly just the base lens is really what you need. The clip-on lenses don't need to be prescription. They're just the blue blocking technology, but the actual base lens is where people might need that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. It looks like you guys are going to offer some really cool products here. So let's see. Should we talk about sleep? I think that's kind of the elephant in the room. Everyone wants to improve their sleep, and there's a million things you can do. So let's get into that a little bit in terms of lifestyle hacks, environment, hacks, and things you can do to optimize your sleep. What would be, if someone just says, hey, you know what, I have a hard time falling asleep, I don't sleep deep, and I wake up in the middle of the night. like I'll do everything you tell me to do, what would that be?
Oh, that's a dream client, that one there.
Yeah, right.
That is a dream client. If only everyone had that sort of mentality and really, that's honestly the biggest one. Is the first step is the awareness and the willing to change, and that the change of staying the same is worse than a change of actually putting into practice some of these practices that we recommend. And yeah, for sleep aspect of things, I've been quite obsessed with that for years now, and I've been sort of experimenting with my own, I guess, sort of tools and tricks in the sort of my toolbox that I've built up, and it continues to evolve. And so I've been able to recently sort of break it down into, I guess, categories that are, I guess, pillars of sleep, and these like areas that I find it easier and more digestible for people to sort of comprehend when it comes to sleep. And so there may be more for the time being, though. My sort of understanding is that there's physiological aspects of sleep, which comes down to sort of your biology, that comes down to your diet and whether you have parasites in your body. It's a lot deeper aspects of that. So that's the whole thing involves with your body. There's a psychological aspect. So that one's a really big, important one I found that people have a problem with, is winding down. And so that has, your mind might be racing, you might be thinking constantly. To be able to fall asleep, you're constantly stimulated. I feel like a big aspect of the psychological can be very connected or very closely linked to the environmental aspect, which comes down to light, light and non-native EMFs. There could be mold in your environment, which is a really bad aspect as well. So that's another environmental aspect. And then it goes into sort of the habitual and routine aspect of things as well. So that's really encompasses everything. I feel like the habits and routines is what you can really integrate all those other aspects, so the psychological aspects, all those things to sort of create an evening wind down routine. I think so. Sort of capping the end of your days, having like a solid morning routine with a solid evening routine can really solidify quality sleep each night. That being said, there are aspects that are out of our control as well. So recently, we've had a full moon here, a pretty intense full moon, and I believe that is like, again, people might think that's quite woo-woo out there, but I believe there's also that deeper universal cosmic level that has an impact on sleep as well that we just can't control. Whether it's connected to our spirit, whether that's a full moon that has an impact on parasite, there's so many different aspects as well that are out of our control. So I think the biggest thing is knowing that you can do all these things perfect and still have some problems and still have some things to sort of work through. And I think it's not a sort of do these things and you're set for life and this is your sleep's going to be best forever. I think it's more of like a transitional, ever growing, ever unfolding process. And so, but I think it's like some key elements to put into place there. So the whole wind down aspect, I think, is really important. I think, again, being exposed to blue light, artificial light, whether that's an hour, 2, 3 hours before bed, is very stimulating towards the body as well. And so it doesn't let your body ever get into like, it doesn't allow the melatonin to be released in the body for you to get sleepy. And so I think when you have a dark environment at night, or if you're not exposed to some sort of stimulant, and that could just be whether you're drinking caffeine late, that can be watching an intense TV show. So that's another aspect I find that people don't really share much about either, is that you could be watching an intense show on TV that it might not make you feel so intense, but your body does have a reaction to that. And your mind is still perceiving what's on the TV as potential real as well. So if you're watching something that could be some sort of level of intensity, and you're wearing blue blockers, which is great, that should be as a sort of a definite tool to wear. But there's also the stimulant that comes from actually still watching something and not actually allowing your body to wind down and give it a break and start to sort of transition into sleep. I think people think they can just watch something and go straight to bed, or drink coffee and go straight to bed and think that's okay. It's just not you're not gonna get the deep quality sleep that your body needs, that your mind needs, that your soul needs as well. So I feel there's that aspect that people sort of neglect, which is, it's also intensity as well. So if you're watching TV, for instance, and you're watching it with a brightness up, but you're wearing blue blockers, you're blocking out the spectrum, but the intensity of light is still coming through, and the intensity of the show, or it's keeping your brain active as well, is also still having an impact. So that level of awareness, I think, is really important. And I truly believe that if people started to transition away and go into more of a darker environment at nighttime, that would have a huge impact on their psychology, so of their mind, the ability for them to actually wind down, and also their biology, so the body give them a chance to actually fall into a deep sleep. And I think that's what the key is too, is you have to allow and let go to fall into sleep. You can't just make sleep happen. You can't just go, I'm going to bed now, and just expect to sleep. The people who have a hard time falling asleep don't generally have a healthy relationship with routines or evening routines as well. And so what I've experienced at least is that like it's key to have that bookend of the day, having the morning and evening routine, and that can look like anything for anyone really. It's based on your sort of personal preferences. So we like for an example, like over here, me and my partner, we love to we might like to watch something on TV, but then we'd like to sort of have a transition before bed where we're in a dark environment, there's no lights on, we have our red head torches that we navigate through the house, and we go to bed and we read for a little bit from our books, our physical books, not our ebooks or anything, and we go to bed and we have our red head torches for lighting there, and we go and turn off the our circuit breaker for the power to our room as well. So which is a really important aspect for people. I think that's a really quick and easy sort of tangible impact for people to sleep as well. So if your room, even if you have all your switches off in your bedroom as well, you still have wiring, could be dead electricity is running through the wall. So a really simple technique that you can do is switch off the circuit breaker to your bedroom. And so it becomes like a blackout zone. You obviously can't control your entire environment around you. You can't control what telecommunication networks are near you, but at least with the whole approach to sort of that biophysics and the physics aspect of things, that you double your distance, you halve your risk. So if you're sleeping in a room, the first point of reference would be your bedroom. So for us, every night, it's like our routine is to switch off the power to our room. And obviously that switches off. If you have a Wi-Fi router, that's just a given to have that off as well. And so in a blackout zone, we have a red head torches that we read our book. And I feel like reading is a great way to sort of transition to a nice sleep as well. Or listen to an audio of some kind. Even just chatting, having a conversation with your partner, that is such a sort of really powerful way to sort of just fall and let go and fall into really solid sleep. And so I think there are some really simple practices that people can integrate even today. Like you don't even need blue blockers. If you wanted to stop watching TV or screens or at least an hour or two before bed, and then be in as dark environment as possible and having the power off to your room, I think they're definitely a place to start, that's for sure. And really doing that consistently will have that impact.
Do you think because for me, what I do in the morning, and I haven't really quite figured this out completely yet in terms of duration and time of day, as close to the morning sunrise as possible. But what I'll do in the morning is get up and, even if it's only for like 30 seconds or a minute or two, because we have two twin boys and sometimes I don't even have that much time, before they're screaming in the morning, but I'll go outside and stand on the grass and just get full spectrum sunlight on as much of my skin and in my eyes without obviously sunglasses as possible. And it's my understanding that that's where melatonin gets created. It's sort of a daily rhythm, right? And it gets created in that morning UVA and UVB sunlight. Is that correct?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, people might not be familiar with that. Is that so with melatonin, it's created through sunlight and then it's released through in darkness. And so that's like the simplest way of people to sort of comprehend is that it is so key to have that morning sunlight. More benefit from being grounded as well. Again, if people don't have that ability, at least getting the sunlight in through the eyes, through the naked eyes, at least not be exposed because with the sunglasses, obviously really fascinating. People would want to read further about that. John Ott, Health and Light, his book I read a while ago had a really sort of profound impact on me and like understanding, and even Jack Cruise's whole work as well, that how the light sort of just gets distorted when it comes through sunglasses. So therefore your body's not picking up exactly what's going on and what time of the day it is. So for people to get that like naked eye exposure and even skin and grounded in the sun in the morning, that's a great anchoring. That becomes the other end of the evening routine. So the wind down the evening routine, and the other end of that, when you wake up, I think that's really key to get some light or some exposure. Then the other aspect of people might sort of say is that if they don't have sun exposure, so where we are in the mountains, we do get quite a dark and long winter. And so for us, it's like, it's not possible if it's raining or if it's really cold and wet outside to be out there barefoot and there's no sun there to look at anyway. So there, where possible, absolutely, that would be like an ideal situation. And then in other situations as well, I think it is still key to have some exposure to some sort of light in the morning to let your body sort of anchor and know that it's morning. There's some useful tools for that. I personally, my partner and I we use like a flicker-free light box that has it's like an adjustable level of spectrums as well. And I use that sort of interchangeably with the retimer glasses, which I put on the big sort of bulky glasses that go on and sort of shines a bluey green light on the eyes as well. That are it allows that sort of alertness and that grounding of morning. Let your body knows that it's okay. Well, we'll stop producing melatonin now. We'll start to produce serotonin and dopamine and get yourself sort of active and ready for the day. And so I think that the transition aspect from morning to night and night to morning is really key to have those things in place. And I think light plays one of the most important roles in that. And I think from the darkness at night and then getting the light in the morning is really just a great anchoring and a great place for people to start and practice regularly.
Yeah, and that there's an app called DMinder that a lot of people don't know exists, but it geolocates you where you are on the earth, and you plug in all the different coordinates, and it sort of knows, your elevation, the season, the time of day, and the actual weather patterns, cloud cover and stuff like that. And it can tell you how much light that you need to get on your skin in order, I think, for vitamin D production. But it's my understanding, though, that that morning light is so optimal and the evening light a little bit less optimal when like the sunset hours. Like it's more important to focus on the morning light and then maybe a little bit during the day so you're not getting burned. That sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree with that. There's definitely that balance you find in nature. And I think, as you mentioned, DMinder app is so great. It's a great place to start for people to gain that level of awareness. Because I think there's very much a huge disconnect within nature. And if you see, like, it's quite interesting to watch. We have chickens in the backyard and our dog, and they're very intuitive with the sun. They know when to sort of bathe in the sun and know when to move themselves into the shade, because they're very grounded to the nature, and they're very in sync with the cycles of, well, the dog obviously sleeps more during the day, but the chickens are really like in sync with nature and the cycles of the sun. And so that really gets me sort of thinking about like our disconnect with humans, that we can override our body's ability to tell us that we should be getting out of the sun. So we can say, no, we want to stay in the sun, even though we might be getting sunburnt or getting too much exposure to ultraviolet light, which is damaging towards the skin and cells as well. But then getting zero sun at all and saying that's all bad can also have a detrimental impact on health. So that transitional phase, and also listening to your body, knowing when it's getting too hot to move into the shade, but also to understand where you are in the world as well. So if you're in the thick of the summer and you're trying to sit out sun completely exposed to skin, it's going to be very damaging towards your skin, but also it's going to have an impact on your health. And if you have a great way to start that is a DMinder app. And again, you can plug in all your details, your location, your skin type, how much skin you've exposed. And it's such a great way for people to see, like, if you're in the middle of summer in like midday sun, then you have like maybe 15, 20 minutes, depends where you are in the world, of optimal vitamin D exposure. You can generate about 10,000 IUs of vitamin D in such a small amount of time. And that's all you really need, ideally, for the midday sun. Especially, again, in the summertime. In the wintertime, again, the sun's very different. You're a lot further away. And so I think that's a great place for people to really check out DMinder app and just get used to that, get familiar with that. And eventually that will help people transition to have that more connection with themselves and to more closer to nature, to like recognize these things as well. And they don't have to rely on a stimulus to tell them that, like, hey, I shouldn't be out here for a long period of time, or hey, I should get some exposure. It makes me feel really good. And knowing that, like, what morning sunlight feels like in the eyes and the skin, and how that actually impacts your day, is so key. I think, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was doing some research on sleeping disorders and stuff like that, and it was saying that like 30% of at least the U.S. population has insomnia, and 10% have chronic insomnia. And it's crazy. And it was also saying that 51% of adults worldwide report they get less sleep than they need on an average night. And it's nuts because when you optimize sleep and you make sleep something where your lymphatic system's working, your body's cleansing of heavy metals, it's restoring and rebuilding mitochondria and cleansing itself. Like when sleep becomes a deep restorative thing, then so many problems go away. Our body's able to have that ATP so we can use to prevent diseases. But unfortunately, so many people are having issues with sleep. And I mean, it's crazy. So you have a sleep course coming up, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So my fiance and I actually we've been sort of umming and ahhing about this for a while, and I've been so deep in this sleep space, and when you've been like, this is like time for us now to really, I think the aspect of sleep and realize how important it is, and we actually been practicing ourselves. Like for instance, I mean, wearing the Aura Ring for over 5 years now. I think I
Mm-hmm.
wore it every day for about 4 years. I took it off for a period to get more connected to my body, and then back in now as we
Mm-hmm.
integrate certain aspects or certain tools, and we can see how that sort of impacts us. This is a great learning curve for tracking and giving us sort of some feedback that we might not otherwise get objectively. And so we're sort of creating this together, and it's quite fascinating because there's another layer of sleep that I wasn't familiar with before. So I've been, for majority of my life, being single and sleeping in a sort of single bed. I was a very different sleeping sort of environment now than with my partner. And so we're learning that aspect of even the yin and yang and the masculine and feminine energy has an impact as well. So I sleep very hot. She sleeps quite cold. And so
Yeah.
that like has a huge impact on our health and even on our sleep cycles. And even me, she naturally has more of a like a late night sort of uh, tendency to want to stay up. And so therefore I'm more so like I'm the more the structure that allows the routine into it as well. So as a natural feminine flow, they have more flow, and the men have more structure. So I think it's really important to understand that aspect as well as everything else I mentioned before, the habits and routines, the environmental aspects, the psychological, the physiological, like environmental again, and also sort of universal, and the aspect it has in our sort of spirit. There's things out in the cosmic as well. So there's it's so multi-layered, and I guess I'm never going to ever, my level of sort of perfectionism comes out when I want to make sure I cover everything possible and being like the most comprehensive that we can possibly sort of pack into something, yet still be digestible and practical, accessible, and even economical, to be honest. Because I know my personal experience and our personal experience with sleep is that it has to be practical and has to be economical, because most people just can't afford to be spending large amounts of money on their sleep. And it's also sometimes not necessary. I think it's really key to get into the things that are the most impactful, that's economical. You don't have to keep buying consistently or even large, really expensive devices. And then over time, you can also integrate them if you have the finances for that as well. Then a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't have either the time or the money to actually want to invest large amounts of money into it. So it's like finding the levels of the tiered levels, what things that are free and then things that are like medium and then go up as well. So we have tons of things in that toolbox that we want to sort of offer. And I think the
That's
most
awesome.
important part is that guidance and support along the way. I think a lot of people just don't know where to start, and having the guidance, support, and most importantly, accountability. I think really when it comes to anything, any sort of lifestyle shift, there's definitely a level of accountability that has a really profound impact on people that really can ingrain a new lifestyle.
When does that course come out and how do people get access to it?
Yeah, I think the best way of people, we're still building at the moment, so it'll be out in the next, say, next month or two. We'll start to sort of release it out there. So while we're still building that, I guess the best way we'll be promoting that will be both through our brand together, our coaching platform, which is Live Holistically, and on Instagram at Live Holistically AU, and also at our Instagram at Barkley Eyewear. So where we most likely will be releasing the signature program, which is the accountability and support from us, and that will guide people through that process. And eventually, we can have a self-paced course where people can just get some useful tools to actually do it themselves. But we find the most impactful way of getting that will definitely be the support and guidance from ourselves.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So if they follow you on Instagram, I'm sure on Barkley Eyewear, I'm sure they'll see notifications for that. Oops, are you still there? Uh-oh.
Oh,
Dane,
lost you there.
are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm back.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was just saying, if they follow you on Instagram, I'm sure they'll see notifications when that comes out.
Yeah, we'll be plugging that for sure. We'll definitely be sharing that, and definitely sharing things up in the, even to lead up as well, to give people some tips as well, and sort of recommendations, and just like planting some seeds to get people to the awareness of connection between their sleep and their health and the day-to-day life as well. So I mean, it's been such a big impact for myself. Even just, I guess our baseline of sleep now is relatively high. So when I do have either a interrupted night of sleep, sometimes there's factors out of my control that I really notice the next day, and then my emotional stability be very low and just easily triggerable. And I
Yeah.
know how much that, and even just in the health as well, you can just notice that the throat might have a little bit of a soreness there if you have a really bad night's sleep, or there could be something there in place that you really notice it really when you get connected to your body and in that space. And so, yeah, we find sleep is so crucial.
Oh man, I'm so there with you because I'm so affected by sleep. So that's awesome. I mean, there's so many things that a lot of people don't talk about, like you said, turning the circuit breaker off, or maybe like the temperature of the bed, or maybe mouth taping. All these things can have such a benefit to your sleep that are relatively easy, relatively cheap. Maybe getting a chili pad or something for your bed might be expensive, but you can turn the circuit breaker off to your bedroom and buy some mouth tape, and that's pretty cheap. And those things alone can have a huge impact that most people have no idea, that those things are even out there or that they impact your sleep at all.
Even incline bed therapy as well. I think with that's just, it puts some blocks under your bed, and inclining your bed is just such a. We had a custom made bed frame, completely metal free timber bed frame. So there's no screws, no metal in it at all, and we've customized it so we have three levels of incline as well. So we worked with a local carpenter to get that created, so which is quite fun. And so now we can actually adjust our levels of incline. That's a really cool one. Andrew K. Fletcher sort of really help bring that to the world as well with the incline bed therapy. And so again, if people can put some books or even some blocks under their bed, that's again another free thing that people can try. And just really, that's just, again, you said too, like even the chili pad, that was one of my number one things to get when we were living closer to the city, because it was a lot warmer when we were in Melbourne. We moved to the mountains now, and now it's so much, the temperature is about 6, 7, 8 degrees cooler out here, and the winter time's a lot colder. So the chili pads no longer sort of needed, because our environment has changed. But in those warmer environments, I think it's so crucial to have a cool sleeping environment, especially for a guy that sleeps hot like myself. I think that's having your body temperature lowered at night, having your circuit breaker off. Again, mouth taping is incredibly beneficial as well. Getting used to that, the breathing through the nose, aromatherapy oils like lavender being diffused. There's so many layers to that, and so I think it's exciting to explore, because it becomes like a giant toolbox that you can pull through. And it doesn't mean that you do them every single night, because I have this giant toolbox, but we just pick and choose what we feel resonates with us that night. So and we integrate things slowly into our lifestyle, into our environment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, in closing, I want to talk to you about your lenses and the transition. So, I'm looking at your lenses here. And what's cool is that, you know, typically people will, like in our space, will buy, like in your case, in this particular instance, three pairs of different glasses. So, you're looking at, maybe $300 or whatever for three pairs of different glasses. But yours has the one frame and three different lenses. And so you've got like a clear lens. I would imagine that would be more for the morning. And then you have a yellow lens, which I would imagine would be more for midday and all the way up until the sun sets. And then you have your red lens, which would be post sunset, no matter when that is in your environment. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so essentially, the breakdown is the clear lens and the yellow lens are like day lenses, based off people's preferences. So the clear lens has like no color distortion. So if you're working with, I know a lot of photographers or creatives are working with color, so therefore they can't be wearing color lenses. But at least with the clear lens, you're getting some protection. At least it's better than nothing. It's not as impactful. You're only getting some violet light blocked. You're not blocking any blue with the clear lens. So anyone out there that has blue blocking glasses that are clear lens, I think it's just a very good marketing aspect, and that saying that it blocks all blue light. I think most technology won't allow that, and you're only getting a certain spectrum block, but which is ideal anyway if you're during the daytime. and you want to have just minimal exposure or minimal sort of impact of lighting, of artificial lighting in your eyes. And so the same as a day clip, it's just like an added bonus to that, and that blocks out all the violet light. And so, which is, I guess, for people to understand the artificial spectrum, it goes violet, blue, then green. And so they're the most sort of detrimental lighting to have as in a sort of artificial aspect of things of lighting. When it comes from the sun, it's a very different world. So the sun has every spectrum in it from the whole through there, and it's very even keel. But when it comes to artificial lighting, it's very harsh in the blue. So we essentially have the clear and the day clip, which are the day lenses, and then the dusk and the delta, they're the two night lenses. And so people have their choice of whether they want to with a dusk lens, which is more of a lighter orange lens, which is we'd say is more ideal if you're out in public. And so like last night, for instance, we were wearing the dusk lens out in public, which blocks 100% of the blue light. And it's a very, very small portion of the green. Whereas the delta lens is a really extreme one for those people that are like really extreme into their health, and that blocks all the blue light and majority of the green light as well, which they're the spectrums of light that's shown to have the biggest impact on melatonin release. And so those are the sort of lenses, almost 2 days and 2 night lenses, but it gives the people the ability and the freedom to choose based on their environment and also based on their personal needs as well.
So that's interesting because it looks like there's the 3 lenses, but so for the red or the orange, you've got dusk and delta. So when someone makes a purchase, they would have to select which one of those they would want for the nighttime environment, right?
They get all of them actually. Yeah, they get all the package gets. You get the base frame with the clear blue blocking tint in it, which comes in with all of them, and then they get all 3 clip-on lenses. So the day, the dusk, and the delta, the yellow, orange, and red, and they all come in a little trifold pouch in the one little neat package that we send out. So they come with the hard case as well as a sort of little grey carry pouch that you can put on your clip-ons in as well. So that is, we're actually redesigning the packaging as well to that's happening within the next couple of months actually. So
cool.
There's a transition that's coming very shortly that's going to move Barkley eyewear to incredibly environmentally friendly and safe as well. So that was always been a dream of mine from the very start. When I started, this idea and conception came in about 2018, I think might have been now. So it's been a big sort of a journey to get it going. And so foundation wise, I started it. Now we're sort of, I got to a point now where I feel like there's being found the opportunity and been given the opportunity now to actually transition across to be completely carbon neutral, completely environmentally friendly. Our packaging's all compostable. Our new what we're redesigning our packaging is going to be very different as well. It's going to be either recycled craft or it's going to be compostable to some degree. And so having that footprint for us is a huge impact, as we're very very conscious of the environment and not having such an impact and creating more waste and even creating more sort of need for that as well. So just to be as sort of transparent as possible with people, and just this is what we're passionate about and this is what I wanted from the very start. And now we're at a place now where we get to sort of, I guess, play with that and get to be more creative with where things are moving for our for Barkley eyewear. So yeah, that's awesome. What the offering is now, but it's going to sort of expand and grow pretty soon.
So when someone purchases a pair of glasses, do they get 4? They get 4 different lenses, right? Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's the base lens with the clear and 3 clip-ons. So they get essentially it's 4 pairs of glasses in one. Is the it's because out there you usually have options to, when you're buying from somewhere else. We have just, most companies or a lot of bigger companies have just a clear base lens blue blockers, and that's what they have. And then some of the more I guess knowledgeable ones in the health space will have the orange or the red tint ones, or even yellow and the orange tint ones. But you have to buy separate pairs of glasses. And for me, that was a big issue back in the day when I was wearing. I had to keep changing glasses, and totally. I had big bulky wraparounds, and I'm like, this was an issue that I wanted to sort of solve for myself, and then also wanted to be able to help others to have a nice, easy transition into the mainstream world as well. So
that's awesome. And what are your perfectly imperfect pairs?
Yeah, that's a good question. That was an idea that came from partner Indy. We had pairs that were just weren't up to the standard that we have, and I have an extremely strict standard to have these glasses, and our return rate is almost zero because of that. And they go through quality control, about 3 or 4 different quality controls, and then I personally inspect every single pair that goes out as well. Probably not the best business aspect of things, but for me, it's just my level of perfectionism and wanting to deliver the highest quality product to the world comes through. So with imperfectly imperfect pairs, they have very, very small minor defects that don't impact on the actual functionality of the glasses. There could be something so small and so slight on the actual lens itself. Or it could be just something it could be a tiny mark or something. And I'm like, for me, it's like, that doesn't meet my standards. So we thought we still don't want to have them sitting and not being used and helping people. But we thought I wanted to just heavily discount them to make them available to people as well. And I found that they're also really popular with people because of everyone's level of funds or even money levels are very different as well. So if you can't afford a full price pair, which is 198 Australian, then they can. A lot of people are going for the perfectly imperfect, and it's still loving them because the impact has no impact on the functionality of glasses at all. It's just a very, very small minor defects that I personally just don't feel happy delivering out there for full price at least.
Yeah, no, totally. One final question on your glasses. You mentioned a while ago, like the frequency of light, like when you're watching, it was a TV show or something like that, and just with an unfiltered screen, excuse me, and if the frequency is so high, like with the high intensity blue light, the frequency of the wavelengths is just so spikes so much. And I'm wondering, like with the glasses, do you know if any glasses or your glasses reduce that frequency? Like, does it transmute the light? Like, what happens when that frequency blue light hits the glasses? Like, does it change the frequency, or what's it doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so when it comes to artificial light from either screens, like whether that's a laptop, a phone, a TV, and especially TV, it's got quite a bright backlight. And so I guess the first thing to do is people to turn their backlight down to zero. And so you're not getting that intensity of light but at least with the spectrum that's coming through, you'll still be getting that artificial spectrum that's harsh in the blue. And so it depends on the company, it depends on the lenses, and it does vary. But it's like, again, it might be different spectrum reports, but there are two aspects. So either they're reflecting, so either with the blue light comes in, it'll reflect off the actual glasses itself. And you can sort of notice that by holding the glasses up to a lighting source, and you can see the reflection that will be bouncing off that. It'll be almost like a blue tinge to it as well. And so there's either two levels. It either reflects off the actual glasses, or it actually absorbs it into the lens itself, and which does not reach the eye then. So there's two different levels. We're experimenting with, we're about to move into a whole new range, and we're with a whole new lens as well. These are like state-of-the-art, world-class lenses we're about to move into, and we're going to start to experiment with different aspects of tinting as well, and seeing what we can sort of create out there. But yeah, there are two different elements, and right now, like ours is a sort of a reflection. So it's like, it doesn't, either way, they both shouldn't be able to reach the eye. I think there's a lot of gimmicky things out there with if you're on like social media, there's a blue light, little like hand torch that people are shining through clear lens glasses, and they say what blocks it, and that's just like, it's not a really good measure of that as well. To really understand that, you need like a handheld spectrometer, which costs about $1,000, I think it is. So it's quite an expensive tool, but that's the way you can actually measure the spectrum of light that's being blocked through the actual lens. That's the only way you can really measure it properly, not those little blue light hand torches that are shining through a clear lens. And so that is, if people really want to go deeper into that, that's another aspect of the lighting world. But again, if you have like a spectrum report, or if you ask for a spectrum report, they can show you that what light spectrum is being blocked and to what percentage as well.
Dude, that's awesome. Sounds like you got some cool things coming up, man. Thanks for, I'm glad we connected, dude. And I'm glad for the work that you're doing and educating people on light, because, this is one aspect when you get into natural health, most people are focusing on food, and yeah, food is important, but man, your environment and specifically your non-native EMF, your light environment, is critical for your health. And I'm glad you're educating people on this and helping spread the word, because not enough people know about the impacts of blue light on our biology. And it's cool when I get to talk to people like you who fully understand this and are educating people. So I appreciate your time today, man.
Oh, thanks, Justin. I really appreciate having me on your show as well. And I really enjoyed it, even though it's 5:20 a.m. right now. I've really enjoyed our chat for sure. And I hope people definitely, your community of gains a new level of awareness from this.
For sure. So it's so sunrise will probably be in 45 minutes for you. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to try to take a little nap?
That's a good question. I don't feel, I guess that the biggest guidance I find for myself when I practice is how I feel. And so right now I don't feel like I could just fall down and fall asleep, but I'm still going to be blocking the blue light. So I'll still be wearing my blue blockers if I'm going to do some work on my laptop, or if I want to just chill and read a book. But I think I'm just going to let my body be the guide of that. And so I know, probably based off my experience, I'll probably be around about 10 or 11. I might find myself starting to crash and have a little
Yeah,
nap
totally.
to recharge. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I'll send you the link to this as soon as it gets published live on YouTube and everywhere else. So, yeah, man, I appreciate your time today. Thank you again for sharing your evening with me and our listeners, man.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks a lot.
All right, man. Take care, and I'll be in touch soon. All right, there you go, guys. Dayne Barkley. You can get his glasses if you want to support him and his work, which in today's world, I highly recommend that you do. Look for people that are good people, that are doing good things out there in the world. And it's not just Dayne. There's a lot of good people out there, that have products that are selling. My friend Matt Blackburn is one of them. Talk about targeted supplementation. Oh, my goodness. Great guy. And there's a lot of people like him that are actually trying to educate people and trying to wake people up and trying to get people to optimize their entire existence. And obviously through sleep and through environmental mitigation strategies like Dayne talked about, we can do that. And it's one of the things that I constantly harp on people in our academy, like, stop focusing on your food. Stop worrying about food. Deal with your food later. Fix your environment first, because these are the easiest way to change your health is to change your environment first. I can't stress that enough. And so you can change your environment, but you can also change what you do. And so when you're exposed to blue light, that's incredibly, incredibly taxing on your nervous system, on your melatonin levels, which most people don't talk about. Melatonin is one of the most anti-cancer hormones your body makes. So it's really important to protect that and to make sure that you create it through lifestyle practices like Dayne talked about. And also you protect it from being released. So we waste a lot of our melatonin through indoor living in blue light during the day. And then when it comes time for secretion, when the sun goes down, we have nothing left to secrete, because A, we didn't hold on to it, but then B, we didn't create it with our morning practice of sun gazing at the beginning of the day to begin with. So there's a lot of like really simple, easy things you can do to increase your health and to really make big strides with your health and move the needle a lot. And food is like way down on the list for me, because I don't like dealing with like food addictions and trying to overcome that. I mean, that's something that you should do later. Obviously try to eat healthy and stuff like that, of course, but man, don't put everything you're doing on food. So I hope you enjoyed that show. I'm going to play a little clip right now of our buddy, Dr. Sam Byrne, and he was talking about molecular hydrogen in terms of health. So let me play this and we'll be right back. I've got a couple things I'd like to share after this, and we'll be right back.
I've been following molecular hydrogen for a while, and I'm starting to see some research where it's being used to reverse cataracts, and that they may actually put it in an eye drop, which may help things like dry eye syndrome and other oxidative stress caused conditions. So I think it's a great technique, and I think it could really benefit the eyes. I would just like to see what the delivery system could be, but even just taking it systemically probably would have an effect on our eyes positively. So I'm all for it. I think it's a very interesting technology.
Yeah, the one that we promote from Vital Reaction, like I said, is like a water-based kind of substance that you can put in your water. But you've seen some research where they're able to maybe make some drops out of it and put it topically on the eye.
Yeah. And again, this isn't commercially available, but some researchers have looked at cataracts and created a hypothesis would this technology help, and the results were very positive. So again, I've made MSM eye drops, and that's been incredible. So this would be a whole other level to make molecular hydrogen eye drops. I think would, just go right to the source of a lot of these oxidative stress-based eye problems.
Yeah, I think it's so important, guys. Hydrogen is so critically important. Man, I'm telling you, it's one of the best things that I ever did was purchase this molecular hydrogen. Here's Brian Hoyer talking about it as well.
And then there's other mitigation strategies that I'm working on for outdoors, and there's different things you can do to mitigate some of the damage. One of the things that Dr. Mercola recommends is molecular hydrogen, and that's actually been shown to basically mitigate 80% of the damage of free radical peroxynitrate, which stimulates those which is created from the stimulation of those voltage gated calcium ion channels. And so drinking molecular hydrogen when you're acutely exposed to those frequencies can help.
Yeah, so molecular hydrogen, for those that don't know, is one of the base elemental substances in the entire universe. Our entire universe is built on hydrogen. It's 400 times smaller than vitamin C, 700 times smaller than CoQ10. That means it can get to places inside your body that nothing else can get to. And so when you're breathing molecular hydrogen, actually Brown's gas is what the AquaCure makes. It's able to get into the actual DNA. Like, it's that small. It repairs DNA. It repairs mitochondrial DNA, and it gets into the brain. And what it does is it reduces rust or oxidation. And what many of you guys know, if you follow our work, and specifically Morley Robbins, when we have an excess of, we live on a planet with oxygen, and this is how we respirate, right? But we have excess iron inside our tissues. And so when that iron interacts with oxygen, there is what we call rust, oxidation. And a lot of people are saying now oxidation is the cause of all disease. So whenever you consume like these polyunsaturated fatty acids, for example, and put those into a warm body, it oxidizes immediately, and it's rusting because of this excess iron that we have in our tissues. And so when we have all this oxidative stress and oxidative buildup, our DNA gets damaged and it can't replicate. And so what this molecular hydrogen does, it helps repair all that. It's amazing, amazing technology. So the way it works is like you have this machine and there's a cannula on it, and you can breathe the gas. So you breathe the gas and you can put like a 25-foot cannula on it if you want. And you just breathe it while you're working. So if you work at home, or if you go to a place to work, you have a cubicle or something, you could actually run this machine and breathe molecular hydrogen for 8 hours a day if you wanted to. You can also do it while you're sleeping. You can bubble the gas into your bathtub if you want. You can bubble the gas into your water, which is what I do. And you can drink molecular hydrogen water plus breathe the Brown's gas all day long. Incredibly, incredibly important. A lot of people are talking about like turning gray hair around, and it just, I can't make any claims, but man, a lot of people with a lot of anecdotal testimonials are saying some pretty amazing things about what this can do at a fundamental level, DNA level. So this is a great, great technology. It's the AquaCure machine. We have a 10% discount code if you're interested in purchasing one of these, which I highly recommend. And George mentioned too that it's the #1 treatment that they're doing in China for big C, little v. That no one's talking about is this. So really, really fascinating technology, 100% satisfaction guarantee. The warranty includes parts, labor, shipping, and he's been in business doing this since 1984, and it's just an incredible, incredible technology. So if you want a 10% off this discount, use the code EHR10, and I'll put a link in the description down below if you're watching the video, or if you're listening on this as a podcast, the link will be at extremehealthradio.com/696. So consider getting one of these. Turn your home into a healing a place of healing. So, and here's another tool that, man, I couldn't live without. I love this machine. It's the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. Check it out.
It's one of the biggest. The other issue is the chemicals in the environment. And to get rid of chemicals in the environment, probably the most cost-effective method is to sweat them out. And far-infrared saunas is going to help sweat them out.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look at the breast. What is the breast? It's 90% fat. It's only 10% mammary tissue.
Mm-hmm.
So the fat of the breast is going to store all these poisons, which act as estrogens, and hold it right up against sensitive mammary tissue.
And so these toxins get stored in the fat cells, and you can sweat these things out.
It's been shown that when you sweat in like far-infrared saunas, you actually can begin downloading toxins from your body.
Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing technology. I sweat, let's see, 4 days a week is what I do because of the amount of toxins in our environment. 60,000 chemicals in our environment since the early 60s. I think there's 85,000 chemicals in commerce, not counting plastics and pesticides and chemtrails, whatever those things are, dropping us on us from the sky. But here's Ken Pressner talking about sauna therapy as well. It's pretty cool.
Also saunas, which I was listening to in the break. I'm a great believer in saunas. In fact, I take a sauna myself nearly every day. And they're tremendously effective for detoxifying metals and other toxins from the body.
But also sauna therapy too, we didn't discuss, it helps to create that fourth phase of water, which is, if you know about that, I mean, talk about an incredible way to create structured water inside your tissues, inside your cells. I mean, sauna therapy is massive for detoxification, for increasing circulation, increasing heat shock proteins, improving your immune system, clearing up your skin. It's so amazing on so many different levels. And here's what I like about it is that I can go in my sauna. I have a little room in our house dedicated to, we call it our wellness room, and shut the door. You know, you can put a documentary on, turn on your sauna, start sweating in like 5 minutes. You don't have to preheat this thing. Your head sticks out so you can watch a documentary, and you can watch anything you want, listen to a podcast, whatever you want to do. Makes the time go by quick, and you just start sweating like crazy. And it's one of the best things I've ever done. We've had ours for like 8 years now. So we sell multiple types of saunas too. We sell the TheraSage sauna, which is great. That one allows you to have a red light therapy device inside of it. We have the wooden ones. We have ozone saunas. We have the lay down saunas. We have all kinds of cool saunas on our store, biochargeme.com. But the one I use the most and recommend is the Relax. It's my favorite. It's the simplest. It's the most, I think, strongest technology. It uses far infrared light. It's really like a light therapy device, and it actually penetrates deepest into your body. We also sell the near infrared, the red light saunas as well. So if you're just kind of hell bent on a certain sauna, come over to our store and make sure that we, there's a very high chance we offer it if it's one of the good ones, and you can support the work we do that way. So come check that out. All right, so I'm curious what you think about Dayne Barkley. Make sure to check out his. I'll put a link to his store at extremehealthradio.com/696. But one of the things that I was thinking about that a lot of people in our academy we discuss is their circadian rhythms and how important light is. And I see so many people that are in the natural health world that aren't wearing blue blocking glasses, and I can't figure out why. Because probably most likely you haven't heard this type of information before. And that's one of the things that we like to do on Extreme Health Radio is just explore the outer fringes of health. I was talking once a week. We have Academy Zoom sessions before we do this show inside the Academy. And we're talking about vitamin D. We're talking about iron. We're talking about omega-3 fatty acids, ascorbic acid, and zinc, and light therapy. And it's like, these are all the things. And we're also discussing too, the importance of spiritual emotional health, and what role that plays and manifestation of diseases. And this is the kind of stuff that you're just not going to get. There's not a lot of people out there putting all the pieces together like this. And, most people are talking about, food, or some people are focused on light and while not talking about food, and putting all the pieces together that we know of is my job. And this is one of the things I like to do inside of our academy. And so, we talk about whether or not you should, supplement vitamin D. And my answer is no. At this point in my life, from the research I've looked at and the people I've talked to and the, podcasts I've listened to, That's one thing you don't want to supplement. And most people are promoting vitamin C. They're promoting ascorbic acid, I should say. They're promoting vitamin D, fish oils, iron supplements, silver. All of these things affect your copper levels. And it's my understanding of what they do is they cause the ceruloplasmin protein to fold to the right instead of to the left. And when proteins misfold, you have problems, and they're supposed to fold in very specific ways. And when they start misfolding, it becomes a pattern. And when they replicate, it continues that pattern. And when they misfold like that, that's one of the issues they're talking about with the injection with this big C little v going on right now, is that there's these prions that get released into the brain, and that's like similar to mad cow disease. And what it's doing is it's causing these proteins to misfold. And as a result of that, when that happens, the tissues that get created from those misfolded proteins actually turn to mush. And that's essentially what mad cow disease is. And this is what's being caused by the injection. So it's like, it's very important that these proteins fold correctly. And this is what happens to the ceruloplasmin protein, which is supposed to house copper. One of its functions, it's got a ton of different functions, but one of its functions is to house copper to be able to mitigate all of the excess iron that we're exposed to and that we consume in our diets. Through acid rain, through well water, through the biological cycle, through growing plants that are high in iron and eating them, through iron fortification project in our food. We have so much iron. According to Morley, I think we have, like, if you take your age and you times it by 365, that's the amount of iron you have in your body. And I think mine is like 16,000, and we're supposed to be at around 5,000, I think. And so when you have this excess iron, it gets stored in your tissues. And then when that happens, it's unable to get back to the bone marrow where it's supposed to be, create new red blood cells. And so if it can't do that, it gets stored in the tissues, and then it starts oxidizing, which I was talking before about what the AquaCure does, is helps reduce the oxidation process in our body. And so when you have these proteins that misfold, the copper cannot oppose that iron and mitigate the oxidation that is caused by that when the iron interacts with oxygen in your body. And so you have this cascading effect of health issues as a result. And according to Morley, this is what happens when you have, you take colloidal silver, or you take ascorbic acid, which is like the outer shell of the vitamin C molecule. And so, and then we just did a show with Jim Stevenson all about the dangers of supplementing exogenous vitamin D supplementation, primarily D3, but also D2 as well. And so there's all kinds of these things that we're sort of putting together all the pieces. And if this all sounds new to you, or you sound like, wow, or you thinking this sounds crazy, this is what we're exploring inside our academy. And so we're at the cutting edge, and this is what we're putting together, all the pieces. And so, for example, you can talk all you want about all the physical things you can do, but what about your emotional, state, and how you're interacting in the world and all of that? So it's really important to make sure that, your health on every level is optimized, because like I was talking about before, we're doing this liver cleanse inside the academy as a group. And, my intention for that was, I'm not going to be taking exogenous vitamin D supplementation come this fall and winter. So, the primary storage location for vitamin D, or hormone D as it's called, is your liver. Also fat cells as well. But, I want to make sure my liver's functioning properly. It's over 500 functions this fall and winter season. So when everyone's freaking out about big C little v, I don't have to worry too much about that, or at all. I don't worry at all, actually. I want to get into all of that. But, I have my level of worry about all that is negative 6 million. No worries at all. So anyway, it's all about optimizing organ function, optimizing our environment, and making sure that we're doing all the things necessary to promote an internal environment of homeostasis. Because, whatever health condition you have right now, I just want you to know that your body's not working against you. Your body's always healing. This is one of the biggest takeaways I got from my friend Dr. Richard Massey, is that your body's healing. It always wants to heal and is trying to heal. The problem is that we get in the way of that by taking the wrong supplements, by doing the wrong things, the wrong lifestyle practices, and living in an environment that's disconnected from nature. And so this is why I like promoting Matt Blackburn's products. I'll put a link over to his store because he's got a lot of cool stuff. Like, oh my gosh, like the vitamin E, he's got incredible product. The systemic enzymes he's got, which is really great for reducing calcification. He's got the Shilajit, which covers all your mineral needs. He's got so many. He's coming out with a water filter soon too. So I'll put a link to his store. If you guys really want to get on the right supplements and not be taking vitamin D and omega-3 fish oils and iron supplements and all this crazy stuff like that, if you want to get on the right supplements, I'll put a link to Matt's store. And there's a discount code too. I think it's EHR 15, I think. I'll put a link. So just go to extremehealthradio.com/696, and I'll put a link to Dayne's website so you can get his glasses if you're interested in getting those or purchasing his sleep course as soon as it becomes available. And I'll put a link to Matt's products too. I just can't recommend him and his work enough. And also I'm going to put a link to the EMF protection clothing that I think we mentioned it when we're talking about shift work and nurses working late night. And this is really cool EMF protection clothing that you can get for that. And as well as the Iris technology, which should be installed on all of your devices. Dayne talked about that. I'll also put a link to John Ott's book, Health and Light, the D-Minder app. So I took some good notes for you. And the Chili Pad too. We use that. And that is a great, dude, coming into... Talk about a really great way to regulate your sleeping temperature of your bed. The chili is awesome. Highly recommend that. And then I'll link over to the show we did on inclined bed therapy with Andrew Fletcher and the mouth tape. I'll put a link to that, the product I use for that. And so a lot of cool stuff at extremehealthradio.com/696, which is today's show. So just remember that, 696. So thank you guys for being on. Next week, we're going to have John Schott. We'll be talking about rewilding and Big C, Little V. The Friday after that, we're going to talk with Nicholas Pinot and my buddy Brian Hoyer about EMF mitigation strategies. Really important. Also, Morley Robbins on the newest copper iron research, along with Dr. Schrader on recall healing. That's going to be a cool show. That's if you guys don't know about recall healing, come join the forums and I'll explain it all to you. But man, it's amazing technology. Then we got Matt Blackburn. We're going to be doing a deep dive on his CLF protocol. So I'll put links to Matt's websites so you can buy his products at extremehealthradio.com/696. It's really important to make sure you're doing targeted supplementation, not taking the wrong stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed that show. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor and do Dayne a favor as well. Share it on Instagram. Maybe tag him, Dayne Barkley, I think it is, on Instagram. Let me see. Let me make sure I have that right. Follow him on Instagram. He is on Instagram. His handle is Barkley Eyewear, just Barkley Eyewear. So tag him and tag me and let him know that you heard about him through us. That would be really cool. Just to let him know that, he impacted some people here. And tag us on Instagram as well. I'd greatly appreciate that. That would be really, really cool. So I love you guys so much. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you again for just being there and listening to the show, sharing it with your friends, and making a difference out in the world. If you want to take your health further, come and join us inside the Academy. The Academy is where we just go way beyond what we're talking about on the show. And if you want to work with me personally and go over some things that you're doing, some suggestions and tips. My specialty is, like I said, putting everything together. And I've been doing this since 2003 when I first started my health journey, so almost 20 years ago. And so I've had a lot of experience diving in and out of different protocols and different things, everything from coffee enemas to liver health to light therapy to spirituality to EMF protection to biohacking, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to work with me directly, you can just tag me in the forums. I'm in there every single day. And every Friday we do a live Zoom session, and those are really fun. So if you want to find a community of supportive people that also think like you, come join us. Here's what you do. Go to extremehealthacademy.com, use the code EHR14, and come and join us for, let's see, that's a 2-week trial. So join us on 2 Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Come and join the Zoom rooms. Like, you'll have the best time ever. It's so encouraging, and it's so fun to get to all know each other and share stories and just let each other know that we're not nuts, for not getting the injection, for thinking that the world's going crazy. Like, we're not nuts. So yeah, come and join us over there. I think you will just get so much benefit out of it. And then plus we do monthly workshops too. And we do, Kate does a women's wellness session twice a month, and Dr. Bergman is live once a month. And we have live workshops, like I said, and I think like 25 different courses on different things. And we also have a private membership or a podcast as well. So that's going on too. So that's like you get access to everything that we talk about and share an audio form as a private podcast member if you're an active member of the Academy. So yeah, come and join us. Come and join us. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Again, this is extremehealthradio.com/696. Have a great weekend. Have a great week wherever you are in the world, whenever you are listening to this. Thank you again. And please share our stuff. That would be really, really helpful. Oh, one other thing, too. We are on BitChute. Let's see. Rumble. What's the other one? BitChute, Rumble. Oh, and Brighteon, Mike Adams' platform. And we're on Library and Odyssey as well. And we're going to be expanding because I'm kind of just done with YouTube at this point. So join us on there. If you're on BitChute or if you're on Brighteon, follow us on there and you'll get access to our stuff as well. All right, guys, thank you again for all your support, for sharing our information on social media. You don't know how much that helps us and impacts us. I really appreciate that. Your reviews on iTunes. Many of you go through our Amazon link, and I appreciate that so much as well. You guys are just amazing. Thank you again. Remember, your body is always healing. Remove the things in your life and in your environment that are preventing that healing from happening, and your body will find homeostasis, okay? Just remember that. Your body's fighting and doing everything it can to heal itself. So just know that and just remember that. And don't ever think your body's working against you. It's always working for your benefit and always working to find homeostasis and to have optimal health. So once you start implementing some of these lifestyle and environmental practices, we can get to that level. So love you guys all. Thank you again. Again, everything at extremehealthradio.com/696. Love you guys.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.